Welcome everyone to another edition of Willow's Weather Briefing. Today is Thursday, June 19th, 2025. Our severe weather sequence comes to a close today with the risk of severe thunderstorms in the east with the primary damaging wind threat. We also have a risk of flash flooding today in the central Appalachia region towards the Allegheny Plateau associated with these storms moving along a cold front, which will bring much of the eastern U.S. relatively cool temperatures for a day or two. Then, a prominent heat wave will overspread the central and eastern U.S., bringing temperatures around 15 degrees above average for much of the area. We also have widespread critical fire weather conditions throughout the West associated with high winds and very dry fuels. Today, above average temperatures in the inner West and central and north, below average temperatures for areas experiencing rainfall in the east. Here was our storm reports for yesterday. Quite a few storm reports over central Illinois, but those quickly depleted as storms grew upscale into a line, bringing a lot of wind reports over here to much of Indiana and into Ohio. Few significant wind reports scattered across this area. We also have flash flood reports over here in Pennsylvania and New York associated with heavy rainfall. Here's our current drought monitor map. These solid lines demarcate areas of greatest concern with drought. And here is our current watches and warnings. We currently have red flag warnings all over the inner west into the inner mountain west, the basin and plateau regions, specifically the central basin and plateau regions. We also have extreme heat warnings here in the southern basin to the Sonoran Desert, still associated with temperatures well above 100 degrees. We also have extreme heat watches now in effect over much of the Midwest to northern Midwest areas, and we expect this to expand east as the days move on. Here is our surface map. We have a cold front currently making its way through the U.S., driven by this low pressure system making its way into lower Canada, into Ontario, and eventually Quebec. This cold front will be the impetus for our severe weather in the east. But then after that, late this week, a high pressure begins to build in the Appalachian region, and then it continues to build and cause our heat wave for much of these areas in the eastern U.S. Low pressure systems will attempt to form over here in the northern U.S. and make its way east, but will be blocked by this high pressure system and will shoot north. So areas in the northern U.S. over here will escape this heat wave, but we expect these fronts to eventually stall just northwest of the high pressure and cause some excessive rainfall for the Midwest. So good news, we'll have some heat relief pretty early in these regions over here. But bad news, we're going to get a lot of rain for a bit early to mid next week because of the stalling fronts, because the high pressure is very stubborn and won't let any cold air mass through. So here is our excessive rainfall outlook, day 1 through, there's a slight risk through central Appalachia up towards the Allegheny Plateau. 1 to 2 inch hour rates are possible with the thunderstorms associated with the cold front, and is especially of concern here because of how moist our soils have been lately. Soils are significantly compromised, which will cause higher risk of flash flooding there. Broad marginal risk exists from the Arklatex region up towards New England. Day 2, as our high pressure begins to build in the east, our rainfall risk focuses off to the north, marginal risk over portions of the northern tier. And once again, on day 3, some marginal risk associated with some enhanced flow aloft driving over the ridge. And then day 5, we have a slight risk over here on Monday in eastern Nebraska to western Iowa, associated with that cold front trying to make its way towards the ridge but stalling in this region. Looking at our fire weather outlook, pretty significant fire weather underway for the western basin and plateau regions. Critical fire weather risk currently in western Nevada into eastern Nevada and western Utah, portions of northwestern Arizona. And then day 2 fire weather outlook, pretty much looking about the same. More extensive in coverage throughout most of Nevada into the Four Corners region. And then day 3 through 8, we do have the extended range outlook hasn't updated yet, but this is going to be our day 3 outlook, or at least a semblance of it, into northern Arizona, into western Colorado, and Utah. So looking at our hurricane in Mexico, this is actually significantly intensified to a major hurricane, Category 4. We kind of expected it to rapidly intensify, but the Category 4 is quite impressive, especially for the first landfalling hurricane of North America. So currently, significant impacts over here in southwestern Mexico. Hopefully everyone there is taking precautions as much as they can, as much as they feasibly can, and hopefully everyone's safe over in that region. Looking at our day 1 convective outlook, we have an enhanced risk over towards the Delmarva region and areas points north and south. This includes cities like Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and another slight risk over here in the northern plains. Broader slight risk in the Piedmont regions up towards northern Vermont. This is primarily for a damaging wind risk here in the eastern U.S. Looking at our day 2 outlook, high pressure begins to build in the east. We have a slight risk in the northern U.S. This is associated with some enhanced flow impinging above the upper level ridge. This is primarily for a large to giant hail and also a large damaging wind threat. A few tornadoes is possible associated with this risk. This includes cities like Minneapolis, St. Paul, Green Bay, Fargo. Primary tornado risk will be relegated to portions of southeastern North Dakota, western Minnesota. This includes St. Cloud, Minnesota, Fargo, North Dakota, Bismarck, North Dakota. Then day 3, our enhanced flow aloft continues to move above this ridge that's building in the eastern U.S. Broad marginal risk from eastern Montana all the way across the Great Lakes into portions of the Northeast. So finally, looking at our heat, the biggest story of this upcoming week, we still have significant heat over here in the southwest into the basin and plateau regions. Temperatures across areas of the Sonoran Desert will still reach around 110 degrees today. But heat begins to build over here in the central U.S. today, and then heat slowly depletes in the east as we get that cold front moving across this region. It'll feel really nice for a little bit over here in the east, but in a few days we'll get significant heat over here, and we can already see that semblance of heat building in the central U.S. by tomorrow. And then by the weekend, this heat will overspread the central U.S. over the Midwest towards the Great Lakes region. Temperatures mainly going to be in the mid 90s or above in every single region you see here, at least in the reds. Well into the 90s, possibly close to 100 degrees in the central U.S. by the end of the weekend. And then by Monday and Tuesday, we'll start to see this cold front try to push in from the northeast, but will stall in these regions, bringing some relief to the central U.S. and upper Midwest, but still the heat will overspread the eastern U.S. Ohio is pretty much in all purple on Tuesday, well above average temperatures, well into the 90s, possibly reaching 100 degrees in some portions of the east. And then on Wednesday, we'll still see that heat over here in the east, um, almost 100 degrees in some portions. And then looking at our extended range outlook, you can see the main story right here, hazardous heat all throughout the eastern U.S. Some rain concerns over here in eastern New Mexico, heavy rain in eastern New Mexico and eastern Nebraska into northern Iowa. It's going to be associated with our cold front that's trying to push through. Here's our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, June 24th to 28th, above average for much of the eastern U.S., below average for much of the southwestern U.S. Here's our 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, above average for much of the southwestern U.S., above average for the northern Midwest. And finally, looking at our HREF model, let's look at the timing of our storms today in the east. We have some severe thunderstorms expected in these regions right here. It looks to begin at around 2021 Z. That is about 5 p.m. Eastern, and that will make its way across the eastern seaboard pretty quickly. It'll be just one round of storms and then deplete by an early evening to mid evening. So that is going to be it for today's weather briefing. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and consider subscribing if you want to watch more weather briefings in the future. And as always, if you want any specific information regarding your area, please refer to your local National Weather Service or broadcast meteorologists. Thank you and have a great day.